What is going up? What is going up? What's going up? What is going on, guys? Sorry for the delay. Sorry for the delay. I know I'm a few minutes late. You're gonna have to forgive me. I had a lesson, got a bit involved, and lost track of time, but I'm here now. Today we're going to be going over phrasal verbs with over. Going over phrasal verbs with over. I hope you guys are all well. Welcome to the class. Rocio, I think you were fifth today. You're a bit late. You're normally first. I'm going to give the episode a quick share, guys. Sorry if I'm still a bit congested. Still getting over this cold, but hopefully I will come good pretty soon. Pretty soon, guys. And have you noticed anything different? Anything different, guys? What do you reckon? Do I look a little bit thinner in the face? Alrighty then. Just let me give this a quick share. Give me a thumbs up, guys, if you can hear me okay, and then we can get started. And hopefully, my voice holds up for this entire one. How are you, Hashim? Marcella's here as well. G'day, Marcella. Welcome to the class, guys. What's going on? What's going on? Are you ready to learn some phrasal verbs? Whew. Man, I tell you what, this cold's been killing me all week. This cold. It's one of those colds, one of those sicknesses where it's not that bad, but it's still really annoying. And I've lost my voice somewhat as a result because of all the coughing constantly. How are you, Jenny? Welcome to the class, guys. I'm just going to give it... Man, you're on it. This is lemon juice, hence the colour of it. That's what I am trying to smash at the moment. Like, it was like a litre of lemon juice. Well, not pure lemon juice mixed in water. I think pure lemon juice would be pretty brutal. That'd be too strong. All right, let me give this a quick share, guys. Give it a share as well if you can, because it always helps me bump up the episode, so a few more people will get to see it. If you can hear me okay, give me a thumbs up. Give me a love heart if you want. And then we can get started. But I hope you guys have been having a good week. How's your week going? I'm glad that you come on a Monday night to come and learn some phrasal verbs, good on you. Yeah. All right. Just compose myself for a second and then we can get on it. We can get on it, guys. I should probably also mention I've tried something a little different on YouTube. I uploaded today what I have called Aussie accents. And so I'm going to try and find excerpts from interviews and other bits and pieces that I see on YouTube, and then break them down a little bit or put them into videos for you guys to listen to get exposure to different kinds of Australian accents. So the one that I put up today is with Rove McManus, who was a comedian, or is a comedian, and he had a TV show called Rove Live. I'm sure you'll be able to find him online or on YouTube. And he's interviewing Steve Irwin. And Steve Irwin, as I'm sure most of you will know, especially if you see him, Steve Irwin was the Crocodile Man. So the Crocodile Hunter, I think. Yeah, that guy. He was great. One of my heroes when I was a kid. Love Steve Irwin. Anyway, so Steve's obviously got a really thick accent. Rove's a little closer to what I am with regards to his Australian accent, but it's a good excuse to get on YouTube and check out this little interview. It's about 10 minutes long, and practice your Australian accent listening comprehension. And there's loads of slang and expressions that Steve uses, and he's really enthusiastic. So really, I recommend getting in there. Aside from that, guys, we can just get started. Forgive me if I take numerous drinks throughout the lesson. So welcome to today's phrasal verb course, guys. This is number 10. We're going to be going over the phrasal verbs that go with over. I know, hold your laughter. All right, so over has a plethora of different meanings, okay? It's got a heap of different meanings, loads of them, and we're going to go over them. So first and foremost, as usual, guys, over can be used with movement. So to go over to a place or go from one side over to another side of something. It can then be used for going from vertical to horizontal. So if something falls over maybe. It can be if something goes over the edge of a container. So if I fill the water up in this container, it would eventually pour over the edge of the container. You can spend the night somewhere and you spend the night over, as in you go over the night, I guess, at someone's house. You can cover something over. So if I get a lid and I put the lid over the top of this container, it's covered it, right? I put the lid over the top of the container. If I give this container to someone else, I'm giving it over to someone else. I guess, again, it's this movement, handing it over, giving it over to someone. So giving something to someone, we can use over there. If we examine something, if I have a book and I briefly go through it, I review it, it's to go over something. We can use over in this case too, where we examine something or we check something. When we ponder something or we're thinking about something, we're thinking it over, we're pondering it. It's going over and over in our heads. So we can use it that way. We can use it to talk about restarting or redoing something, to do it over. If you turn something over or invert something, we can use over there as well. And if you turn it around and around and around, except on a horizontal plane like this, we're turning it over and over and over. And the last two, we can use it as a synonym for about something. So if you get upset over something, so as a result of something, you get upset over something. And then as usual, there's a whole heap of miscellaneous ones that we will also go through, guys. And after that, I have 5 expressions with over phrasal verbs that I'm sure you'll love. So stick to the end, stick it out, stay tuned, let's do this. All right. So movement verbs. Obviously you can come over. I came over to his house. You can go over. I went over to your place last night. I went over. Here's my place, here's your place, and I went over. Sort of similar to going around, except this time it's on this axis. So it's on sort of like a horizontal one as opposed to a vertical one, okay? So I go over, I went over to your place last night. You could get over to a location. So again, we're just switching in these verbs, these movement verbs, and we're just picking the way that we want to describe it. And this time we're describing it with this movement, which is why we're using over. Above and over. So get over to the pub after work and come and sink some piss with your mates. I got over to the pub after work. You could run over somewhere. So you're covering distance. There's 2 things here. You're going from here to here, and you're doing it by running. You're running over to this place. So I ran over to my folks' place. If instead of running, you decided to walk, you could say that you walked over to your folks' place. Or I walked to the beach in my boardies. Boardies are board shorts, another Aussie slang term. I walked over to the beach. I'm here, the beach is here, and I walk over. I really walk like that, but we sort of talk about it like we're covering distance like this. I walked over to the beach in my boardies, my board shorts. I flew over to Perth. So here's me in Melbourne, here's Perth. I fly up and over to Perth, I fly over to Perth. If I flew over Perth, that would be the idea that Perth is here and I flew over it, okay? So we could throw something over something. Imagine that there's a fence like this. I'm playing in the yard over here with a ball and I throw the ball and it goes over the fence. I might climb over the fence. I might then jump over the fence, get to the other side, pick the ball up and throw it back over the fence to my friends. So this is going from one side to the other side of something, right? So I threw the ball over to him. I could look over the fence or the wall. If something's here and I come up, peek over, I'm looking over, it's here and I'm like, hello. I'm looking over the wall. So I'm looking at the wall currently and I put my head up and I look down over the wall. I could jump over a gate. I could jump over the wall. I could jump over the fence. Again, over something, but we're just using a different verb based on how we want to describe me going from one side of something to the other side of something. Perhaps we could bend over something. So imagine the fence is really small and I'm really tall. If I walk up to the fence, I could bend over the fence. So maybe it's so short, the fence is so small that when the ball goes over the fence, when I accidentally threw it over the fence, all I had to do was walk over to the fence, lean over the fence, pick the ball up to bring it back over to my side of the fence. Yep, climb over the fence, we've talked about that. You can walk over something. So maybe you've got a bed of flowers. If I walk over the top of the bed of flowers, so a flower bed where there's all these little flowers, I'm walking over it. So I'm going on the top of it and trampling it. I'm trampling over it, walking over it, stomping over it if I'm really horrible. And I could walk over a bridge. So you've got a bridge like this, tends to be shaped, in that kind of basic shape of going over. If I walk up and over the bridge, there we go, we can use it again. Maybe I decide to ride my bike over something. So I could have a hill here. I ride my bike from this side. Maybe I ride around the hill first. Maybe I ride under the hill. But then afterwards I'm like, you know what? I'm going to turn this up to difficult mode and I'm going to ride over the hill. Okay, to ride over the hill. And we could also cross over the hill. So again, I'm sure you're getting the sense. You just pick that verb that you want to use and then over to go from here to here, but in this movement, okay? And it's over something this time. Maybe you decide that you want to drive over the bridge, or maybe you decide you want to drive over someone. So maybe Pete's standing in the road and you decide to drive over Pete. You could also use run over to talk about hitting something with your car and going over the top of it. So if you run over Pete, it's that you've driven into him and gone over him and then kept going. You've run over him, you've driven over him. Just going to grab another drink. All right. So now we'll get into going from vertical to horizontal. I'm sure you guys can already think of some. You could trip over. So I'm walking along and I catch my foot on something and I trip over. Maybe it's a step on the ground. I trip over. So I trip on it, I trip on the step, and then because I fall to the ground, I'm tripping over. Okay? Instead of tripping, maybe I stumble. So I kind of lose my footing and I stumble over the rock. Stumble over the rock. If my foot slips, if it slips out from underneath me, I could slip over. If I fall to the ground, I've slipped over. So maybe I'm walking on some ice and I slip and I fall to the ground, I slip over on the ice. I could also fall over something, obviously. So you could have a tree that falls over in the wind. Maybe you've got a tree that is right next to your house, above your house. It's hanging over your house. A lightning strikes it and the tree falls over onto your house. So what else have we got here? You can also start doing these verbs to someone else, okay? So I could trip someone over. I could trip over myself, I trip over, or I could put my leg out and trip my sister over, for example. Or maybe I decide to walk up to a bin and kick it over. I kick the bin over. Maybe I push my brother and he falls to the ground. I push my brother over. So it's the basic thing of going from vertical, and again, this kind of movement from here to here, this basic movement like this, from vertical to horizontal, falling over, getting pushed over, kicked over, etc. You could knock something over. If I had this glass here, or it's plastic, but I had this and I hit it with my hand, if it fell to the ground, I've knocked it over. It's gone to horizontal. A building could topple over. A building could topple over. Tree can fall over. You could tip something over. So maybe you've got a basket of apples and you tip it like this. It's going in this movement. You're tipping it over and everything falls out. You can also obviously bend over. So if I'm standing upright like this and I do that, I bend over. Just me, that's what I do, as opposed to bend over something like the fence. I bend over. I could hunch over. And that's the basic idea of, potentially being sat. I'm going to try and do this with my hand. Sat in my chair, and then I just lean forward like that. I hunch over. And you can keel over. So if you keel over, that's to die, okay? That's one way of saying to die, to pass away, keel over. But I guess literally it would be, again, sort of like falling over yourself. So my sick uncle keeled over. Another drink. All right. Imagine now that you are going over the border of something. So if this was a pot on a stove, we're heating it up. The water's boiling up in the pot. It gets to the top and it comes over the edge. It boils over, or it boils over the edge. It might bubble over. Maybe it simmers over the edge. So again, we just switch this verb in, but we're trying to explain the fact that the stuff in here is going over this, I guess, edge or border and then down. So it's boiling over, bubbling over, simmering over. It could spill over. Another way of describing that, the water's come over the edge of its container, but we can use spill over into something when we're talking about reaching a point where something is no longer controlled or contained. I guess like the water in the cup, but it can be more figurative as well to talk about, say, violence. So maybe at the moment in Spain, there's a lot of violence happening or a lot of, political unrest in Catalonia. If that went from one border, from within Catalonia into a similar state or something close by, it could spill over the border. And it's this kind of idea, but figurative. It's gone from in here over something. So years of frustration spilt over into violence. I guess that's more, it became violence, but the war spilt over the border into the neighboring country. Okay, so these are different ways of using over. You can spend the night over at someone's house. So this one I try and imagine like you've got, the moon and the sun going around the world like this, right? If the night comes up, so imagine you're here, right? You're here on the planet, the sun's gone down and the night has come up and it goes over the top of you, it goes down and then the sun comes up and it's the next day. So the night goes over. So if you spend a night somewhere, we can often say we've spent the night over somewhere or we've stayed over somewhere. We could also stop over at a location. So perhaps on a journey, we've got a flight that's stopping over somewhere. It's just temporarily stopping, say in Bangkok. So she stopped over in Bangkok on her way to Europe. Maybe she stayed over at James's house last night, and maybe he slept over at a friend's house. So all of these things just mean to spend one night in a certain location. As we mentioned previously at the start, we can cover something over. So if I get the lid for this and I put it on top, I'm covering the container over. The lid's going from here over the top of this container. So we covered over the pool. We took something and put it over that thing. A lake could freeze over. So if a lake freezes over, that's the surface of the lake completely freezes and it's become a cover on top of the lake. Another sort of example would be the sky could cloud over. So the clouds come over us, we look up at the sky and we're covered by clouds. The clouds are above us, they're over us. The sky has clouded over this evening. We can hand something over to someone. And again, that would be the basic idea of someone's here, and an item goes from here over to here. So give something over to someone. The thief gave over the stolen goods to the policeman. He gave them over. He handed them over to the policeman. So I handed the criminal, I've got the criminal who stole something and I handed him over to the police. Maybe I decide that I want to pass him over. So can you pass over the tomato sauce to me? He could be holding a bottle or maybe some wine and he passes it over to his mate who's currently dying of thirst. We can use it for examining and checking something. And you guys will hear me go over this kind of expression all the time. And that was one example right there. So maybe I get a report and I need to check it. I go over it. I check it over. Maybe I get given an essay and I have to read it before it gets handed in. I read over the essay. I'm verifying that it's okay. I'm checking it. I'm examining the essay. Before I hand it in, or before it gets handed in, I read over it. I could look over it. So she looked over her assignment before submitting it. Before she handed her assignment in, before she handed it over to her teacher, to the assessor, she looked it over. So she had it in her hands and she looked over the whole thing. Maybe you could imagine being bent over the top of it and looking down at it. We could do it really quickly though, so we could glance over something. And a glance is kind of a brief stare like that. That's a glance, very quickly. So he glanced over her work quickly. And as I said at the start, which is probably the most common one you guys are going to hear, to go over something. So we went over the rules of the game, meaning we sort of examined them, we checked them. Does everyone understand? Do we need to go over it one more time, or are we all good? No, we don't? All right, sweet. No need to go over it again. We can use over to talk about pondering something, thinking about something, being pensive, having it in your mind. So if, I guess you want to imagine that movement like this, right? So twisting, going over, but this time it's figurative, it's in your head, and it's going over and over and over and over. So I'm thinking something over. I'm not sure if I should do this today, guys, but I'll think it over. Maybe my parents don't know what to do for the weekend. My parents thought over what to do this weekend. Maybe by thinking it over, they were talking with one another. They were talking to one another. They were talking to each other. So they were talking it over. They were talking this plan over. They were discussing it, thinking about it, pondering it. Obviously, you could ponder over something. Thinking over, pondering over. They pondered over what to do. What should we do, guys? Let's discuss it. Let's think it over. Let's ponder it over. And we could also say mull over something. Just another verb, another way of sort of saying this. To mull over it. Sort of just being like, yeah, I've got a lot of problems at the moment. I'm going to think about them a lot. I'm going to mull over them, okay? We can restart something. We could redo something. So we could just say start something over, or we could say restart it. We could do something over, or we could say redo it. The prefix there means the same thing, to do it again. And over, the preposition or the particle that's going after the phrasal verb is the same thing. It just means do it again. So maybe I have to do that assignment that I handed it over to my teacher after I'd looked it over and I decided that it's not good, I'm going to have to do it over. So I glanced over it one more time and I decided, based on what I've just read, it's awful, I'm going to scrap it, throw it out, do it over. I'm going to do it over. I'm going to start over. So maybe there's a game and there's a false start. Something happens that shouldn't have, and they want to restart it. They want to redo it. They want to redo the beginning. They start the game over. We could make something over. So if we made our beds and mum and dad came into the bedroom and saw our beds and said they're not good enough, they might say you need to make your beds over. So you need to do it again. You can invert, right? And the most common one here you probably will know is that people say to dogs, roll over, and it's wanting the dog to do this. He's wanting him to twist over, to invert, okay? So the dog rolled over onto his back, and then he might roll back over onto his front, okay? And you can do it. You can do this thing though. So if I forced the dog to roll over, I'm rolling the dog over, and then I'm rolling him back, okay? So I could roll over a log. If I force the thing to twist like this, I'm rolling it over. Starting to lose my voice, so I'm going to take another drink. Maybe I've got something flat like this, a little book, and I decide that I want to flip it over. So I flipped it over. Maybe it's a car and it's driving and the car hits someone and flips onto its top. So its top is now facing down. The car's flipped over in the accident. I could turn something over. So this could just be that it keeps going, or it could just be that it's one time. So I've turned the book over, or I'm turning it over again and again and again and again. Or I'm turning it over and over and over and over. You'll notice how we add those prepositions or those particles quite often to emphasize what's happening repeatedly. So I'm turning it over, might turn it over once, or if I'm turning it over and over and over and over, I keep saying it. So I turn over in my bed, I turn the book over. Well, now let's go through some about. These are ones that mean where over is used as a synonym for as a result of something, or as a synonym for about, okay? So where it's used as a synonym for about. Someone could drool over something. So drool is for saliva, the liquid in your mouth to come out of your mouth. Dogs do this, they drool quite a lot. But if you drool over something, it means that you're like anticipating it. You really want that thing. So maybe a girl is reading a magazine and there's all these hot guys in there with ripped abs, really big arms, and she's sitting there like, oh my God. She's drooling over the boys in the magazine. So she's drooling over the boy in the magazine. Maybe she's obsessed with this one guy in the magazine. He's some famous dude, hopefully not Justin Bieber. So she's obsessing over the guy in the magazine. She's obsessing about this guy. She's drooling over him. She's drooling all over the place. She's obsessed with him. She's obsessing over him. We can also use this with, say, to cry over or to whinge over. So if you cry over something, it's sort of like as a result of that thing happening, it's made you cry. So maybe a girl has spilt her milk. She had milk in a container. It's toppled over, fallen over when she knocked it over. The milk's come out and she's cried over her spilt milk. She cried about her spilt milk. Maybe her mum's come in and had a whinge over the fact that she's crying. So a whinge is like to complain. Maybe her mother comes in the door and just says, why are you crying about what happened? It's not a big deal. So she's having a whinge about it. She's having a whinge over it. And we can also get upset over something. So get upset as a result of something, get upset because of something, get upset about something. So he got upset over what you said to him. That really upset him. He got upset about it. He got upset over it. Now let's move into the miscellaneous ones, and then we'll go through 5 expressions with over and finish up. So if I move over like this, I was here and I move over to here, it's just to create space or to shift. So someone might say to you, move over, shift over, budge over. Again, we're just switching that verb in, whatever you want it to be, but the basic idea is create space, shift aside. I guess basically still this movement, get up, move across and over, move over. You can move something over if you cause it to shift. So I move the sofa over to make room for my chair. You can also, just say that generally to get someone to create space. And we can move over ourselves, okay? So there's some good ones there. You can get over something. If you get over something, this can mean to recover from something. So at the moment, I'm trying to get over my cold. I'm a bit under the weather. I'm a little bit down at the moment, a bit depressed because I'm sick, and I'm trying to get over my illness. I'm trying to get over the flu. We can use this figuratively though, to get over something, as in to move past something. So build a bridge and get over it. You'll hear people say this quite a bit. And it's to move past something emotionally. So it's all in here. It's a figurative thing. It's not literal. So maybe a girl breaks up with her boyfriend and she gets over it really quickly. So she moves past that breakup. She builds a bridge and gets over it. And she's feeling amazing. Whereas the boyfriend is devastated. He's down in the dumps and it's taking him a while to get over the breakup. So to move past something emotionally. We can get something over with. So this is where you're going to notice that the placement of the object or the indirect object in these or the object in these things becomes important. Get over something, but if I get something over with, that means to end something, to finish it as quickly as possible. Okay? So if I get something over with, I want it done. I don't want to do it anymore. I need to stop procrastinating and finish that thing. So I got the presentation over with as fast as possible. So I tried to do it as quickly as possible and get it over with. You could take over something. To take over something. Again, this one was hard to place, but to take over something is to take control of something. So imagine when that violence in a country erupts and it spills over the border into another country. Maybe as a result, when the soldiers get into this country after coming over the border, they take over the country. They take control of the country. So they've taken over the region, the country, they've taken control of that place. They've taken over. You might ask someone to watch over someone else. So you can imagine you're an adult and you've got a kid down here and you're being vigilant. You're watching over the child, I guess. You're watching over them to make sure they're okay. So this is to guard, to protect, to sort of watch, to keep a close eye on something, to pay attention to something, to watch over something. So the babysitter watched over the children. A few more ones here, guys. One more quick drink. Hopefully my voice will hold up. To tick over, this is for, say, an engine to sit neutral, sit in neutral, sit idly, so the car's engine ticked over. It can also be for something to run smoothly with no problems. So the business ticked over while we were away on holiday. The business ticked over, kept doing what it was doing, like an engine ticking over and functioning like it's supposed to function. You could fuss over something. So the girl who cried over spilt milk, she spilled her milk over. If the mum comes in, sees the girl crying over the spilt milk, she could fuss over the child by being really fussy, being like, oh, are you okay? Is everything all right? Oh, no. That's fussing, making a fuss over the little girl who is upset because of her spilt milk. So the mother fussed over her child. You can win someone over. So to win something is obviously the opposite of to lose. And if you win someone over, or something over, though it's probably going to be someone, this is to gain their support. To gain the support of someone, to win them over. So to convince someone to like you. So hopefully at the moment, you guys are getting won over by me in this course. Hopefully I'm convincing you with this course, phrasal verbs are not that difficult, that you're going to enjoy learning them. I'm hopefully winning you over. I'm convincing you to like me, or I could be convincing you to like phrasal verbs. I'm trying to win you over. So maybe a comedian comes out, gets up on stage, he comes out and he tries to win over the crowd. He wants the crowd to like him, tries to tell some good jokes and win the crowd over. You could work someone over, or you could work over someone. This is to beat someone up severely, to really hurt someone. And you'll often hear this with groups like the mafia. They worked over the man. So he's been worked over by the mafia. The mafia worked him over. You can walk all over someone. To walk all over someone is to walk over them completely. So it's to treat someone incredibly badly. Literally, it's to walk on them, it's to walk over them, but in the figurative sense, it's to kind of exploit someone, to treat someone incredibly horribly, to walk all over them. If I had a girlfriend who was really nasty and made me do everything for her whilst abusing me and treating me horribly, I could say she walks all over me. She walks all over me. Maybe at work, my boss treats me horribly. The boss walked all over his employees is that he abuses them. He's horrible, okay? Something can blow over. If something blows over, this is for it to figuratively fade away. It's not serious anymore. So something blows over, fade away without serious consequences. So maybe some sort of incident happened at work when I got angry at my boss, for walking all over me. I raged up, got angry, but after the incident occurred, it blew over. It wasn't a big deal and people forgot about it. It blew over. You can do someone over, screw someone over. You can also fuck someone over. That's the ruder version. And that means to deceive, to trick, or to harm someone. So a con man could screw over the businessman, or he could screw the businessman over. He could do the businessman over. Or if you want to really emphasize how horrible it was, you could say he fucked the businessman over, or he fucked over the businessman. You can lord it over someone. This is to act like you're more important than anyone else. So I'm going to lord it over my brother. So I'm just telling him, I'm making sure he knows that I'm the best. I lord it all over my brother. I lord it over my brother. You can also hold something, to hold it, to pick it up and hold it over someone else. And this is to use a piece of information, though, to threaten someone or intimidate someone. So he held my secret over me would be like he knew a secret that I didn't want anyone else to know, and he held it over me by sort of forcing me to do something so that he wouldn't tell anyone that secret. All right, guys, that's it. Now we'll go through 5 expressions and we'll finish up. You can be all over. So if something is all over, something is done, it's finished, it's completely over. It's completely finished. To be all over is to be completely finished. So once the game finishes, it's all over. Game over. Finished. You could be head over heels for someone. Head over heels, like you're tumbling over and over and over. Your head's here, your heels on the bottom of your foot. If you're head over heels for someone, it's you're totally infatuated with them. You're in love with them. You're obsessed with them. You are head over heels for your girlfriend. You can be in over your head. So to be in over your head is like you've gone into water and the water's come up, your head has gone down, the water's come up over your head. So it's like you've gotten into trouble that you can't handle. So if you're in over your head, it's like you've tried to do something and it's just too much for you to do. So imagine literally I'm trying to swim across a river, trying to cross over a river, and I start sinking underwater. Someone could say he's in over his head, both literally and figuratively. So I've tried to bite off more than I can chew. I've tried to attempt something that I can't actually do. I'm in over my head. You can cry over spilt milk. We went over that with the girl. If you cry over spilt milk, this is to get upset about something trivial. So something that doesn't really matter or that's unchangeable. To cry over spilt milk. And you'll often hear this in the negative. Don't cry over spilt milk. There's no need to cry over spilt milk. It's just a simple tear in your pants. No need to cry over spilt milk. It's not a big deal. It's trivial. And the very last one is to bend over backwards for someone. To bend over backwards, that'd be like to fold yourself, but backwards. Bend over backwards for someone is to exert a lot of effort to do something for someone or to do something to please someone. So maybe I like a girl and I'm working really hard to impress her. I'm buying her things. I'm doing these crazy things. It's requiring me to exert a lot of effort. I'm bending over backwards to get her attention. I'm bending over backwards to impress her. So he's constantly bending over backwards to impress that girl. So there you go, guys. We'll quickly go through the different ways that this phrasal verbs can be created with over. Movement ones, this basic motion like this, to go cover distance, but like this. You can go from vertical to horizontal. You can fall over. You can go over the edge of something. So again, we can go over the edge. The water boiled up and over the edge. If the night comes over and then day comes up again, you've spent the night somewhere, you've spent the night over at a location. If you put a lid on something, you've covered something over. Maybe you hand it over to someone. If you want to thoroughly examine it, you're checking it over. Maybe you're thinking about how you examined it. You're thinking over how you examined it. Maybe you're going to check it over again, so you're rechecking it. you're checking it over, or you're examining it over as in doing it again. Maybe you turn it over, or you turn it over and over and over and over. And then we had a whole bunch of miscellaneous ones. So that's it, guys. I hope this helps. I hope you can go over it a few times and get a handle for how to create phrasal verbs with the preposition over. Oh, good job, guys. Good job. Far out. I know it's a lot of content, guys. I'm really trying to give you as much as possible so that you can go over this a few times. I wouldn't go through this too thoroughly, as in initially I wouldn't go through it line by line. Just listen to it, picture what I'm talking about, try and absorb it, and I want you to really try and imagine in your head what I'm talking about when I use these scenarios and try and explain this stuff to you. So it's really me trying to give you these phrasal verbs in context, and I'm trying to say them as many different ways as I can so you can hear me playing with them. So you can hear how I create them, substitute in different particles, different verbs. I really want you guys to learn to use phrasal verbs like this, just like I do as a native, so that it becomes effortless. So if you want to sign up for the course, guys, you'll get this video but inset, and you'll get to see the I've forgotten the word, the PowerPoint slideshow with the video. I'll turn that into a movie so that you can see everything that I am talking about with images and with the example sentences. You'll get a full word-for-word transcript of every single phrasal verb that I say, with their definitions and with some exercises. And yeah, it's going to help you learn phrasal verbs effortlessly. So sign up now, guys, and start smashing it out, and you're going to dominate phrasal verbs. But I'm really starting to lose my voice, so I'm probably going to finish up here, guys. You can probably hear it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for staying over the whole thing. And I will see you hopefully later this week. Peace out, guys. Don't forget to share this. Don't forget to share it. Tag anyone that you think it'll help as well, because that'll help me too. So have a great night, guys, and thanks again.